My wedding, in a way, has become the stuff of legends. Go, figure. No one's ever had a wedding like mine before. My name is Erica. I'm a 20-year-old office worker. My fiancé John works in sales for one of our business partners. We met during a company mixer and hit it off, dating for about a year and a half. He proposed and now we live together in the apartment I originally had. We wanted our wedding day to coincide with the anniversary of when we started dating, but that day fell on a weekday. So we decided to get married on the weekend and make our legal registration on our actual anniversary. I'd always had a dream wedding in mind, so planning came easily to me. Of course, I asked for John's input, but he's pretty laid back about it, saying I could decide everything as long as we stick to a budget. Planning things by myself was fun, so I didn't mind that John was busy with work. That's because it's fun. I never thought this would backfire. Before we knew it, the big day was almost here. John, what time are we leaving tomorrow? While playing a game on his phone, John replied,
Whatever you decide, just wake me up an hour before.
Classic John. He's indecisive, leaving even minor decisions to me. I've always just gone with it. The next morning, the wedding day had finally arrived. Hey, wake up! It's time! John checks his phone and mutters,
It's only 6 a.m.
But you said to wake you up an hour before we leave.
I went to bed at 1 a.m., you know.
Not my problem. You stayed up late gaming. That's on you. Plus, I told him yesterday what time we'd leave. We're supposed to be at the venue by 8:30. It takes a bit over an hour to get there. I plan to leave at 7, which is why I'm waking you up now. Not wanting to argue on our big day, I explained my calculations, and John reluctantly got up. He kept complaining of being tired, so I drove us to the venue. Traffic was lighter than expected, so we arrived with time to spare.
We could have slept for another 30 minutes,
John griped. The nerve. He'd been sleeping in the passenger seat the whole way. But I let it go. Once I was in my wedding gown, my spirits lifted. It was a dress of my dreams. John walked into the room and for once told me, You look beautiful. The compliment made the morning's issues vanished, but then, at the reception, something unbelievable happened. The ceremony went smoothly, and we transitioned to the reception hall. John seemed relaxed now, even cheerful. He was letting the bosses from his work pour him drink after drink. John, don't overdo it with the alcohol, I whispered, and he ignored me. In the middle of conversations, John suddenly stood up and started walking. To my astonishment, he grabbed the microphone from the MC and began to speak.
I've got something to announce to everyone here.
Clearly drunk, slurring his words, he's hard to understand. I tried to intervene, but I'm stopped by my sister Jean, who's been pouring the drinks. All eyes are on John.
Starting today, I'm going to be the best husband ever.
Relieved, I thought he would say something outrageous. But then his words take a disturbing turn.
I'm gonna start by training my wife.
John points at me.
Starting tomorrow, you're moving into my parents' home. Don't think you can leech off me just because we are married. We are still gonna both work.
The room, once silent, begins to stare. My sister Jean, who's filming this, is beside me. What? What's this about leaving his family? Is this a thing? I shake my head in confusion. His family does live in the same state, but it's a considerable distance. Commuting would be a nightmare. We had talked about looking for a new place nearby after the wedding, so why is he saying this now? As I contemplate this, John's rant continues.
A housewife is a leech. I'm the breadwinner here, so you better do your part. Contribute to the household finances. I'll save what I earn.
What is this guy talking about? His rumblings are so far-fetched. I can't keep up. He's gesturing wildly, clearly pleased with himself. The MC, who has lost control of the microphone, frantically asks staff to bring another, but John ignores it and continues.
Of course, all the housework is your job. Within a year, give birth, and then it's straight back to work. I want 2 kids. So make sure they're twins so you won't have to take another leave.
What? You can just decide to have twins. What's gotten into this guy? Melvin, John's father, breaks through the crowd to restrain him. John shrugs him off and keeps on going.
Erica, from today, you're my wife. You should feel grateful.
Something inside me clicks. I catch my father's eye as he moves closer, visibly angry. When I gestured to him, my father sighed and said something.
Should we leave?
That's what he said. Yes. I stand up and yell.
The wedding reception is cancelled. It's just a social gathering now.
The room falls silent once again. I apologize to my guests and leave. My guests follow suit, exiting the venue one after another. Finally, a flustered John realizes the gravity of the situation. As I finish changing in the dressing room, a pale-faced John comes rushing in.
Erica, what about the reception? What? Didn't you hear me say we're calling it off?
I shot back coldly, and Melvin, who had followed me, started apologizing. Mom, or Jillian as she's known, was also saying sorry while sobbing her eyes out. Melvin and Jillian had always been super friendly and considerate whenever we met. I suspected they were in on this whole living together fiasco, but seeing them like this, it seemed more like John's doing. So I told both parents to stop apologizing.
Look, no offense to Melvin and Jillian, but let's pretend this marriage never happened.
The one who responded was John.
Why?
I had to smirk. He thought I'd marry him after he said something like that.
Why? You're asking me why? Isn't it more bizarre that you've even considered cohabiting after saying such a thing? Thankfully, we haven't filed the marriage papers yet. Dodge a bullet there. No need for a divorce record.
Later, we agreed to discuss things further, and I went back to my parents' house. A week later, John and my in-laws came over. John seemed less arrogant than before. As soon as he entered the room, he offered a deep apology.
I am really sorry.
But neither my parents nor I had any intention of forgiving him. John still seemed to think we were getting married, which was questionable at best. Today isn't about deciding whether we're going ahead with the marriage. I said this, and John looked puzzled. If he doesn't get it, I have to spell it out for him. There's no way I'm marrying you. John's face turned pale, and he started to panic.
Why? What changed?
I sighed and started playing a video that my sister Jean had captured for me. Of course, it included that scene. Watching it, John's face hardened and his complexion worsened. He clearly didn't mean to say all he had. When the video was over, John started speaking, visibly shaken.
I was trying to show some manliness.
Cut him off.
Manliness? This? You think this makes you a henpecked husband? If he thought being henpecked was manly, he had it all wrong. Let's say, John, you made big bucks, and I didn't need to work. Then playing the handpicked husband or doing housework would be fine. But that's not the case, is it? I earn more than you do. You've even failed to contribute to household expenses before.
John seemed to shrink more and more.
Why the sudden talk about living together anyway? That never came up before.
Cornered by my momentum, John finally spoke in a small voice. I was told that the start of the marriage is crucial, so I wanted to make a manly declaration for a smooth life ahead.
Growing even more irritated by his barely audible voice, I pressed him again. Told by who?
Lowering his voice even more, John spoke up. The guys on the internet forum said, "You've got to avoid being a henpecked husband before your wife looks down on you."
Internet forums? Really?
I couldn't believe it. Listening to complete strangers and then messing up your life because of it? Both my parents and my in-laws were speechless. All I could do was sigh. I thought it was strange how much he was on his phone lately, but I had no idea he was taking in all this nonsense.
You really messed up our wedding, you know. I want you to cover all the expenses and pay a breakup fee. Plus, I've been paying the rent until now. I want you to cover your share from the time you moved in.
It seemed money was the only solution left. I listed out all my conditions to John, and he did a complete 180.
What? What should I pay? I never wanted a wedding ceremony. This was all you're doing, Erica.
I was taken aback by his sudden change, but I couldn't back down now.
We agreed on this together. We even split the costs and planned the budget. You never took responsibility for anything important, always leaving it to me. You don't trust me. You're just lazy.
He had nothing to say to that.
You can even handle your alcohol. Remember getting mugged when you were drunk? Or how about the time you missed your train because you got wasted at a work party? How could you be so reckless at your own wedding ceremony?
I finally realized something important. I had things I liked about John, but I never knew I had so many grievances.
If we had gone ahead and gotten married, what would have happened? As much as I regret the breakup, maybe it's better than regretting a marriage. Once I thought about it like that, any lingering feelings vanished. I'm canceling the lease on the apartment. Get your stuff out immediately. I'll be invoicing you for half of all the past rent and utilities. If you don't like it, I'll bring in a lawyer. What's gonna be?
John resisted, but then Melvin, who had been silent, spoke up.
Enough is enough. Erica is right. I never thought you'd be so irresponsible. You're going back to your parents' home, and you will pay Erica what you owe her.
And so my in-laws apologized to me. In the end, they took John back home and agreed to manage his finances. We settled the financial matters without lawyers. Melvin was scary when he was mad. John tearfully agreed.
You're going to pay the full amount, understood?
I emphasized one more time. Later, I found out that John had returned to his parents' home, withdrew all his savings to pay me, and even sold some of his belongings to make up the difference. I agreed to let him pay in installments, and each month, under Melvin's watchful eye, the money is deposited into my account on John's payday. Word spread like wildfire at John's workplace, where many colleagues and bosses had attended our wedding. His boss, who has a daughter my age, said he'd never forgive John for treating a woman like that, and now ignores him outside of work duties. His co-workers are no longer on his side either. John used to come to my office too. That's all been stopped, and I haven't seen him since.
Being single might have its downsides, but it's way better than a bad marriage. Nowadays, I'm enjoying life. Going on girls' trips, hanging out with colleagues, and just having a good time. In retrospect, not getting married was definitely the right choice.